"Table 7 needs coffee," the manager said, "and you're short $12 on your register." Maria Santos froze. She was holding a pot of coffee in one hand, 3 plates balanced on her other arm. The breakfast rush at Danny's diner was in full swing. "I counted it twice," she whispered. "I don't understand." The manager, Frank Cooper, crossed his arms. He'd heard it before. They all said they counted twice. They all claimed they didn't understand. "Company policy is clear," he said. "Cash register discrepancies come out of your pay. If it's over $10, it's grounds for termination." Maria's hands started shaking. The coffee pot rattled against the plates. "Please," she said, "I have 3 kids. My husband is—" "I'm sorry, Maria. I need your apron." She'd been working at this diner for 6 months. It was the only job she could find that let her work the morning shift, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., so she could be home when her kids got out of school. That's when a man sitting at the counter, someone who'd been quietly reading the newspaper and drinking coffee, folded his paper and stood up. Danny's Diner, West Hollywood, Thursday morning, November 18th, 1966. Maria Santos was 34 years old. She'd immigrated from Mexico City 7 years ago with her husband, Roberto, and their 3 children. They'd come legally, had their papers, had dreams of building something better. Roberto had been a mechanic, a good one. He'd found work at a garage in Burbank, steady pay, enough to rent a small apartment in East LA. Then, 6 months ago, Roberto had a stroke. He was 36 years old, didn't smoke, didn't drink, just got unlucky. He survived, but the left side of his body was partially paralyzed. He couldn't work, couldn't drive, could barely dress himself. The medical bills were catastrophic. Even with the charity care from County Hospital, they owed $4,200. The rehabilitation therapy cost $80 per week. The medications cost another $45 per month. Maria had taken the waitress job at Danny's Diner the week after Roberto came home from the hospital. She worked 6 days a week, 8-hour shifts, brought home about $180 per week, including tips. It wasn't enough. It was never enough, but it was something. She'd been careful with the register, obsessively careful. She knew Frank Cooper was looking for reasons to cut staff. Business had been slow. 3 waitresses had been let go in the past 2 months. So when Frank told her she was $12 short, Maria knew something was wrong. She'd counted her drawer at the start of her shift, $100 even. She'd counted it again at her break, $247.50. She'd counted it a third time before turning it in, $312.25. The math was right. Every transaction matched. Every check had been rung up correctly. But Frank was holding the deposit slip, and it said $300.25, $12 short. "I don't know how this happened," Maria said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "I counted 3 times. Everything matched."
"Well, it doesn't match now," Frank said. He wasn't being cruel. He was just tired. "You know the rules, Maria. I can't make exceptions." "Please," Maria said, "I can pay the $12. Just take it from my tips. I need this job. My husband can't work. We have 3 children. Frank's face softened slightly, but his voice stayed firm. "I'm sorry. If I let you keep working after a discrepancy this big, I'll have to let everyone else slide too. It's not personal." Maria untied her apron. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely get the knot undone. She'd been fired over $12. $12 she didn't even take. $12 that had somehow vanished between her careful counting and Frank's deposit. She was thinking about how she'd tell Roberto, thinking about the rent due in 5 days, thinking about the $80 therapy session tomorrow that they probably couldn't afford now. That's when the man at the counter spoke. "Excuse me." Frank and Maria both turned. The man was in his late 40s, wearing a nice but not flashy suit. He'd been sitting at the counter for maybe 30 minutes, reading the Los Angeles Times, drinking coffee, not bothering anyone. "I'm sorry, sir," Frank said. "We're just handling some staff business. I'll be right with you." I think I might have caused the problem, the man said. He walked over to where Frank and Maria were standing. I paid for my breakfast this morning. Eggs, toast, coffee. The bill was $2.75. Frank nodded. Yes, sir, I remember. I gave the young lady here a $20 bill, the man said, gesturing to Maria. She gave me $17.25 in change, but I think I might have confused her because I also left a $10 tip on the counter, and when I picked up my change, I might have accidentally picked up the $10 tip, too. Maria stared at him. She'd served him breakfast. She remembered him, quiet, polite, left a good tip. But she didn't remember any confusion about the change. Frank was frowning. Are you saying? I'm saying I think I accidentally took $10 that belonged to this diner, which would explain the discrepancy, wouldn't it? $12 short in the drawer, and I mistakenly took $10? The math didn't quite work, but it was close enough to create doubt. Frank looked at Maria, then at the man, then back to Maria. Well, Frank said slowly, if that's what happened— It is, the man said firmly. He pulled out his wallet and handed Frank a $10 bill. My apologies for the confusion, and here's another $10 for the trouble I caused this young lady. Frank took the money, looking uncertain. The man turned to Maria. I'm very sorry, he said. I wasn't paying close enough attention. Then he walked back to the counter, left another $5 next to his coffee cup, and headed toward the door. Maria ran after him. Sir, she called, wait. The man stopped just outside the diner. The morning sun was bright. The smell of exhaust from Santa Monica Boulevard mixed with the scent of bacon from the diner's kitchen. You didn't take any money, Maria said quietly. I remember. You paid with a 20. I gave you correct change. You left a $10 tip. You didn't take anything extra. The man smiled slightly. Are you sure? I'm sure. Well, then maybe I'm just forgetful. Why did you do that? Maria asked. You gave Frank $20. You didn't have to. What's your name? The man asked. Maria Santos. Maria, how much do you make in a week working here? Maria hesitated. About $180 with tips. And you were about to lose this job over $12 you didn't take. Yes. The man pulled out a business card and handed it to her. My name is Dean Martin. I'm a singer. I perform at the Sands in Las Vegas, make movies, do some television. Maria stared at the card. She knew who Dean Martin was. Everyone knew who Dean Martin was. I don't understand, she whispered. 25 years ago, Dean said, I was working in a steel mill in Steubenville, Ohio. I was making $40 a week. One week, the foreman said I was short on my production quota, said I'd loaded 12 fewer barrels than I was supposed to, said I was docking my pay by $8. Dean paused, remembering. $8 doesn't sound like much, but when you're making $40 a week and you have a family to feed, $8 is the difference between eating and not eating. I knew I'd loaded the right number of barrels. I counted, but the foreman said the numbers didn't match. What happened? Maria asked. Another worker, a guy named Tony Benedetto, spoke up, said he'd seen the foreman miscounting, said the numbers were right. The foreman backed down. I kept my full pay. Tony saved your job. He did more than that, Dean said. He taught me that sometimes the most important thing you can do is speak up for someone who can't speak up for themselves. Maria's eyes were filling with tears. Your husband, Dean said. You mentioned he can't work. What happened? Maria told him. The stroke, the medical bills, the 3 children, the $4,200 they owed, the therapy sessions at $80 per week that Roberto needed but they probably couldn't afford now. When she finished, he pulled out a checkbook. Mr. Martin, Maria said quickly, I wasn't asking for— I know, Dean said, but I'm giving anyway. He handed her a check. Maria looked at the amount. $5,000. I can't, she whispered. This is too much. I can't accept this. The $4,200 is for your husband's medical bills, Dean said firmly. The other $800 is for therapy sessions. 10 weeks. After that, you call the number on that card. I have friends who run a rehabilitation clinic. They'll take care of Roberto's therapy. No charge. Why? Maria asked. The tears were falling now. Why are you doing this? You don't know us.
Dean Martin looked at this 34-year-old woman who'd been working 8-hour shifts 6 days a week, caring for a paralyzed husband and 3 children, counting her register drawer 3 times to make sure she didn't make mistakes, and still almost lost everything over $12 she didn't take. Because Tony Benedetto spoke up for me when I needed it, Dean said. And because 15 years ago, when I was broke in New York, working clubs for $50 a night, I got sick, needed surgery. A man I barely knew paid my hospital bill, told me, someday, when you can, do the same for someone else. He put his hand gently on Maria's shoulder. You're a good mother, he said. You're a good wife. You work hard. You count your drawer 3 times to make sure you don't make mistakes. You deserve better than getting fired over $12 that wasn't your fault. I don't know how to thank you, Maria said. Take care of your husband, Dean said simply. Raise your kids, and someday, when you can, help someone else who needs it. He started to walk toward his car, then stopped. Oh, and Maria, he said, that manager in there, Frank, he's not a bad man. He's just tired and worried about his own job. But you might want to start looking for better work anyway. Someone who counts their drawer 3 times deserves to work somewhere that appreciates that. After Dean left, Maria stood on the sidewalk outside Danny's diner, holding a check for $5,000, crying. Inside, Frank Cooper stood behind the register, counting the morning's deposits. He'd been managing Danny's diner for 11 years. He'd fired dozens of employees over those years. Some deserved it, some didn't. Watching Dean Martin hand him $20 for a mistake that never happened, watching him walk outside and talk to Maria, watching Maria's face when she came back inside, something had shifted in Frank's chest. He'd been about to fire a single mother over $12 she probably didn't take. The register had been acting up for weeks. The total button sometimes double counted. Frank knew this, but it was easier to blame the employee than to call the repair company. That night, Frank went home to his wife June and told her the story. What did you do after Dean left? She asked. I let Maria keep her job, Frank said. Told her the matter was resolved. June looked at him for a long moment. That's good, but you should do more. Like what? Like give her a raise, like fix that broken register, like stop looking for reasons to fire people and start looking for reasons to keep them. Frank didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he called the register repair company. The technician found the problem in 10 minutes, a worn-out gear that caused the total button to occasionally add extra charges. How long has this been happening? The technician asked. Probably a few months, Frank admitted. So every time your drawer came up short, it wasn't the employee's fault. It was the machine. The technician nodded. You might want to check your records, see how many people you fired over this. Frank did check. In the past 6 months, he'd terminated 4 employees for register discrepancies, all of them between $8 and $15, all of them probably caused by a faulty machine. He'd ruined 4 people's lives over a $30 repair he was too cheap to pay for. That afternoon, Frank called Maria into his office. I've been thinking about what happened yesterday, and I'm giving you a raise. $50 per week more. Plus, I'm making you the morning shift lead. You'll train new waitresses. You're the most careful employee I have. Maria stared at him. Mr. Cooper, I don't understand. Dean Martin taught me something yesterday about what kind of manager I want to be, about paying attention to the people who do hard work and do things right. Roberto Santos recovered slowly.
The $5,000 from Dean Martin paid off all their medical debt and covered 10 weeks of therapy. After that, the clinic Dean had referred them to provided therapy at no charge for another year. By 1968, Roberto had regained most of the function in his left side. He couldn't return to being a mechanic, but he found work as a dispatcher at a taxi company. Desk work, steady pay. Maria stayed at Danny's Diner for another 3 years. She saved her money. In 1969, she and Roberto opened a small Mexican restaurant in East LA. They called it Casa Santos. It seated 30 people. They served breakfast and lunch. Maria cooked. Roberto managed the books. They had a policy. If someone came in hungry but couldn't pay, they ate anyway. "Pay us when you can, or don't pay at all. Just eat," Maria would say. She told all her regular customers the story of Dean Martin saving her job, paying their medical bills, changing their lives. "Kindness isn't about money," she'd say. "It's about seeing people, really seeing them, seeing that they're trying their best." Maria and Roberto ran Casa Santos for 35 years. They fed thousands of people. Some paid, some didn't. They never turned anyone away. When Maria died in 2004 at age 72, her obituary mentioned that she and her husband had owned Casa Santos for over 3 decades. It also mentioned that they'd never turned away a hungry person regardless of their ability to pay. The restaurant was left to their youngest daughter, Carmen, who'd grown up watching her mother cook and serve and see people. "Keep the policy," the will read. "If someone's hungry, feed them, because that's what Dean Martin taught us, that the most valuable things in life aren't meant to be kept, they're meant to be given away."